Mic check 1 2 1 2. Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to the show, y'all. To all my new listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And to all of my day 1 to 67 to 33, you know what I'm saying? Whatever week you came in and decided to keep listening, I genuinely appreciate you. So, as I said last episode, I just turned 46. That was the wrong one. That's so funny. And with that, as I was leading up to my 46th birthday, I got this revelation, like this light bulb moment where I was like, oh my gosh, 46 is closer to 50 than it is to 40. And so ever since I turned 46, I've been like, I'm basically 50. And here's the thing. There's just something about knowing that I'm close to being 50 years old that is just wild. Like, that just really feels so grown. Like, I don't know. I feel like my life is not in order to where I should be at 50. And it's funny because someone did ask me, like, what are some things you'd want to do before you turn 50? Not going to get into that. And here's the thing. We're all at different places in our journey, blah, blah, blah. So I don't really mean that my life is not in order. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, but I don't know. It just really, I feel like turning 46 and all the ages I've turned, like I remember when I was about to turn 30, when I was about to turn 40, and when I was about to turn 45 even, you know, there have just been different markers of wherever. I always reflect before my birthday. But for whatever reason, knowing that I'm basically 50, it just hits different. And there has just been a shift in me that I haven't seen since when I turned 40. When I turned 40, that's when I first started like looking back, you know, reflecting on relationships and just different things and started shifting things out of my life that I felt were, and I don't necessarily mean people, but I mean just things and habits and mindsets. Like, that's when I started that shift of just kind of changing my mindset, toxic things, whatever. That's when I really started working on myself in an even more intentional way. Because here's the thing. I feel like I've always been the type of person who's really just introspective and whatever, and just in my head a lot to where whatever. But yeah, when I turned 40, that was when there was like a major shift. And I would say 46 is the next major shift. And so in this episode, I'm talking about the things that I'm not doing anymore since I'm basically 50. You know what I'm saying? Because I promise you, the amount of times that I've said I'm basically 50 since I turned 46, it hasn't even been a month. But listen, I am basically 50. So I have a list so that I can stay on track, and it's not like in order of importance. It's just in the order that it popped in my head, right? So first thing that I am no longer doing because I'm basically 50 is over explaining myself. And in some instances, I might not even explain myself. Listen, let me tell y'all something if you're not aware of this. No, N-O, period. That is a complete sentence. It holds weight. It doesn't need any further explanation. Your no can be no, and that truly can be it. And what I've learned with over explaining myself is that in some instances, it gives people a reason and just a way to poke holes at your reasons for whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm sure there's disclaimers to this, but that's not what I'm talking about. Like, recently, someone asked me if I wanted to do something and I didn't want to, so I said no. And that was it. I'm not going to explain why, because why is irrelevant. I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. And so that's one thing I'm not doing. Another thing I'm not doing anymore, now that I'm basically 50, is letting anyone steal my joy. Listen, I told y'all in the last episode, I got baptized a week before my birthday, right? And so with that, I had already been if you're not aware, living for the Lord for 19 years. So it's not like I was a new Christian. I've done so much work. The Lord had already done so much healing, whatever. But there just really was something significant about getting baptized, where there was so much stuff that was left at the bottom of the lake. I love saying that. And so with that, I jumped up out of that water, literally jumped, with a joy that I don't think I've ever had. And with that, I'm not letting anybody steal that joy, because you did not give me that joy. I have heard that phrase said so many times, and it just hits different when you actually, like, it's sunk down into my soul, and I get it on a different level. So yeah, I'm not letting anyone steal my joy. Another thing that I'm not doing now that I'm basically 50 is drinking alcohol. And here's the thing. I've never been big on alcohol anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, back in the day, I used to smoke weed, so that was my thing. Alcohol was never like my go-to. Don't smoke anymore, or I don't do edibles. I don't do anything. But as I've gotten older, and really it's this perimenopause journey that has really like made me be way more conscious of what I'm putting in my body, because I'm trying to manage hormones and emotions and energy and my mental health and just all these things that have been affected in such a wild way since perimenopause. And so with that, I just feel like anything that doesn't really add value, I just don't think I really need it. And like alcohol for me, like I said, it was never like my go-to, even before I like officially made the decision of, oh, I'm not going to drink anymore. I can't even think about the last time I drank. And even then, let's say the last time I drank, I don't know, maybe it was 6 months ago. We'll just go with that. I can't remember the time before that, because that's how far apart. Like, I don't even have a once a month average in a year of how much I drink. So like, yeah, it has no value for me. This is no shade to anybody else. Again, I'm the one that's basically 50, right? And these are the things that I'm no longer doing. So there's that. Okay, this next one, I wish I could go into depth about where this came from, but that's okay, because y'all don't even need that context, right? I am not falling in love with anyone's potential and being okay with scraps of effort. I'm not romanticizing things that, you know, like the reality is we see things for what we see them up front. Like, there are usually red flags that we choose to ignore, that we think they're pink or we think they're, you know, magenta or whatever. And then the further you get down that track, you realize that they are actually red flags. Like, I've heard it said that if a plane takes off and it's 1 degree off course, when you are close to your departure place, it's not going to matter that much, right? But the longer that plane flies 1 degree off course, the further it gets from its destination. And that's what it is when you ignore red flags when you see them up front. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not falling in love with the potential. I'm not, you know, coupled with that is I'm not investing more in relationships than they invest in me. Like, I do understand there are going to be scenarios where like you're mentoring somebody or whatever. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these are supposed to be your friends, and not because they're going through things or whatever. I'm not talking about that, because there's, you know, grace for that. But I'm just talking about this is how it's always kind of been. Yeah, I'm not doing that. And here's the thing too, is I am not letting perimenopause win when I tell you, y'all, this has been the most ghetto thing ever in the history of ever that I have ever gone through. It is so wild. So let's talk about from the Snatch 40s perspective real quick. Okay, here's the thing. been on this journey probably as long as I've had this podcast, or not as long as, but since I've been in my 40s, that's when I've been calling it that. But if we want to be so for real about it, I've been on this weight loss journey for like the last 13 years. Like that's when I started gaining weight and whatever. Okay, about a year ago, not even a year ago, nope. So I want to say October of last year, that's when I started kind of like making some progress. And so then I lost like 28, 29 pounds or something like that. Then, like I said in the last episode, earlier this year, things just got really wild with perimenopause and energy and mental clarity. And I can't, it was wild, like getting lightheaded when I would go to the gym and I'll try to work out or whatever. So I really had to do a lot of figuring of things out. And then some ways just kind of, I would be like so hungry too. And so with that, I gained like, I think I said 6 or 7 pounds back. And, you know, before we got to that point, I was like, okay, I gotta figure something out because I can't be like this for the rest of my life. So like, what do I need to add? What do I need to take away? Like, what do I need to do? Whatever. And so, like I said, I started taking the beef organ supplements, and those have been super helpful, like, except for the week leading up to my time of the month. That's the only time I'm still like really hungry, but that's normal. You know what I mean? But outside of that, more normal, whatever. And so with that, I'm back down almost 2 pounds. And so, you know what I'm saying? I'm not letting perimenopause win. Like, I'm going to figure out what I need to do to have a sense of normalcy. It's going to be a new normal in some ways, but I'm going to have a sense of normalcy regardless. Now, perimenopause is not something that I can escape. It's here. It is what it is. But like, even I just realized, because I noticed that like my mind is more like, I can't think of what I'm trying to say, or I mess up on my words, like say the wrong word or whatever. That has always been a thing. Those of y'all who have listened to this show for the almost 7 years that it's been here, you know that's the thing, but it just has gotten worse. And so I've kind of figured out, okay, I know what the cause of that is. And so, you know what I'm saying? I'm very just in tune with myself and very self-aware. So like, I notice when things are off within me. And so with that, perimenopause is not going to win. Like, I know some people, they go through perimenopause and like, they just gain weight, or they just whatever, because I follow a lot of different people and see a lot of stuff on like social media. And like, yes, that very much is a thing, but I promise y'all, I am not letting perimenopause win. I have always been a fighter. I have always been somebody who people may say they tried to do something, but whatever I set my mind to do, I can and will do. And so, yeah, I'm not letting perimenopause win, because I'm basically 50. So like, what I look like letting you just lead my life when, and here's the thing, I think maybe I'd have a different mindset. I don't know if like different struggles had been a part of my entire life, but by the grace of God, I haven't had like a ton of health challenges. Like, yeah, I've struggled with anxiety or depression here and there, but it hasn't been like crippling to the way, you know, the effect. It hasn't been crippling in a way. I just gotta laugh at myself when that happens, because it just is what it is. I don't know. I haven't like attacked that yet, that part where I like mess up on my words or whatever. I just know I've kind of figured out what the cause of it is or whatever. And there are solutions. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Because again, everything costs money. Like, it ain't free. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But anyways, I haven't had anything that's been just so crippling that it's hindered me from whatever. So then now I'm telling y'all, there have been days when I've been like, I just feel like I don't have control. What is going on? So yeah, I'm not letting it win. And last but not least, because this is not the entire list, this is just what I thought of for this episode. Might do another one, might not, who knows, but I am not allowing distractions to stop me from creating now that I'm basically 50. For me, it has always been that podcasting, blogging, or any sort of content that I create is a therapeutic creative outlet. Like, I am so blessed that the job that I have is, there's a lot of creative things that I get to do. There are skills that I've learned that I didn't have before, you know what I mean? And so with that, I am just somebody who has always been the type of person that I have to have a creative outlet. And so what I've noticed though is how easy it is to get distracted. Now, everybody has their priorities, right? Like, we go to work, we have relationships that are important, we might have hobbies, we might have whatever. But with that, here's the thing. For me, a priority for me is to record a podcast episode. A priority for me is to, if I don't write an actual blog, to have some sort of encouraging, memes or whatever you want to call it, graphics go out. Like, I figured that's a workaround if I don't actually have time to write a blog. But then I also have to prioritize things. Like, it's also important to me to socialize and like have downtime and, hang out with friends and stuff. But there has to be a balance. Like, there's going to be times when I say, yep, I can do that. And then there has to be times when I say no. And again, going back to the beginning, not over explaining myself. Like, it's just no. Like, these are what are priorities to me. Within that, I'm also like, I got to factor in working out and just all these things. And it's kind of like, I am a person that does well with rhythms. So that's another thing that I'm not allowing now that I'm basically 50, is I'm not allowing anyone to disrupt my rhythms. You know what I mean? Like, rhythms are important to me. Structure is important to me. Freedom within the structure. I've talked about that on here, but I need to have structure. And I realize that about myself and how much I thrive and do better when I have that type of scenario going on. And so with that, it's kind of like, you have to fight for that. Like, it's not going to come easy, because if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? But we have to fight for what's important to us. We have to fight for not allowing distractions. And it could be our own distractions. It could be like, oh, I'm about to watch this show instead of doing what I know I need to do. Yeah, I could watch that show, but it's almost like I gotta have like certain days I do certain things, like record on a certain day. And then I realize I need to have a different day to edit, because I really want Fridays, because
at the time of this recording,
it's a Friday. I really want Fridays to be the day I don't touch my computer. I have to touch my computer every day. Well, not every day, but for work all throughout the week. I really want there to be a day that I don't touch my computer. However, touching the podcast equipment, you feel me? That's not my computer. This is different. This is a therapeutic creative outlet, right? So if I record on Fridays, but I edit on a different day, that's a workaround. You know what I'm saying? So there has to be like creativity, whatever. Like, the goal is the goal, right? But there are creative ways that you can get there. So let's go back to freedom and the structure. The structure is, I want to create a podcast. I really want it to go out every week, right? That's the structure. The freedom within the structure is how I do it. I don't have to record and edit on the same day. I don't have to, record on the same day or any of that. But I do want to have a specific release day, because that's kind of how it was, from the beginning of the show. And what's wild is, coming up on 7 years of podcasting is crazy. Like, this is the only creative outlet. Granted, yes, I know there have been like months, like gaps that were like months long and this, that, and the other, but I always come back to it. So I can say then, now that we're coming up on 7 years, right? I mean, I've had 2 shows at different points and just all these things. But with that, it's like, this is the only creative outlet that I've had just consistently. That's my own. I do a lot of stuff for like work and stuff like that, but it's not for me. It's for my job, and it's great. I'm not minimizing it, but it's like, it's just different when it's your own creative expression, right? So yeah, that is what I have for y'all, right? Like I said, your girl is basically 50, and I really am basically 50 at this point. And so you do have to move different in different phases of life. So if nothing else from this episode, my encouragement and my hope that you take away is that, like, what are the rhythms in your life, or, you know, just do a little self-check. What are the relational habits, or what are just things that you've noticed that you're like, this doesn't bring me peace, or this doesn't have any value. You know what I'm saying? Take some time today after you listen to this and really think about that. Write that down and just take one step. You don't have to have a whole list of things that you're doing, but just take that one next step, because I'm trying to tell you, you'll have so much more peace, joy, maybe even purpose, depending on what's on your list. And like, life is short, right? We don't know how long we're going to be here. This does not have to be where we have this miserable existence where we just can't wait to get to heaven, right? For those of us that we're believers, and that's where we know, you know, is on the other side of this. It's like, we can have joy now in heaven, or I mean on earth as it is in heaven, right? So we can have joy now. We can have peace now. We can even have abundance now, you know? So with that, like I said, do what you got to do so that you can continue to grow and just continue to, you know, be your best self. Because when you're your best self, then you're offering that to everyone else. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not taking care of yourself, you really cannot truly take care of others, right? I firmly believe that. So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate you. Make sure you're taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Be healthy in your relationships. I love y'all so much, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.